So this book is Addy, A Heart Full of Hope, and it takes place in 1864. So let's begin. We're going to start off with a peek into Addy's world. Addy's family found a home in one of Philadelphia's many boarding houses. They shared one room, and their meals and laundry were included in the rent. In boarding houses, people from different backgrounds, recently freed Black people like the Walkers, and lifelong free Black people from the North lived together. So these are the boarding houses, kind of like apartments, or if you rent out a room in somebody's house, it's kind of what it is. That's what they looked like. And number one, which is right here, that is the privy. There were no indoor toilets or bathrooms, so boarders used the privy or outhouse in the back alley. Number two, which is right there, that's the kitchen. This small room was crowded with supplies to make meals and do laundry for everyone in the house. Number three, right there. A rented room. Addy, Mama, and Papa shared a room in the Golden boarding house. It was crowded, but they were happy to be together, so they all lived in one room in somebody's house. And number four is the parlor, right, which is right there. After supper, boarders gathered in the parlor to visit and exchange news. Addy sat at the table to write letters to the freedmen's camps. So it was kind of like, like maybe a rec room or just like a common area, or some people might call it a living room or something. So that's basically what that was. So this is the type of house Addy and her family lived in. So while I'm reading, you can kind of picture what it's like. Okay. Now we're going to go over the family tree, Addy's family and friends. This is everybody. That's Mama, Addy's mother. That's Papa, Addy's father. Madeir, an elderly woman who befriends Addy. Mr. and Mrs. Golden, the owners of the house where the Walkers live. That's Sam, Addy's 16-year-old brother. Esther, Addy's 2-year-old sister. Sarah, Addy's friend. Mrs. Moore, Sarah's mother. Auntie Lula, the cook on the plantation, who is like family to Addy. Uncle Solomon, Auntie Lula's husband, so her husband. Harriet, Addy's classmate. And Mrs. Ford, the owner of the dress shop where Mama works. So that's Mama, and she's the owner of the shop. Addy's story is written in a dialect that reflects the way African Americans spoke in Addy's time. The dialect isn't written exactly the way people spoke. That would make the book too difficult to read. Instead, the dialect is similar to how speech sounded at the time. So now that we got the introduction out of the way and we know a little bit about Addy and kind of like what life was like for her growing up, let's begin with the story. So first, that's the picture. Chapter 1, Double Dutch. The rope slapped on the sidewalk as Addy took her place at the end of the line of girls who were playing double dutch after school. Addy had just missed for the 4th time. "Don't worry," said her good friend Sarah. "Just keep trying. You'll get it. Double dutch is hard." Addy agreed. "It sure is. I can jump with one rope just fine, but the minute I try to jump into two, I get all tangled up. The ropes go so fast I can hardly see them. That'll change, said Sarah. Don't get discouraged. Despite her troubles double Dutch, Addy felt happy on this pretty spring day. Papa had been with her and Mama in Philadelphia for 3 months. They had moved out of Mrs. Ford's garret and into a boarding house. It was almost like having a big family again, except that Addy's brother Sam and baby sister Esther weren't there. Maybe that'll change someday too, she thought. Hi, welcome. Look at there, Sarah said, pointing up the street. Ain't that your papa driving the ice wagon? It is, Addy exclaimed. Let's go meet him. The girls took off and raced down the block. Well, well, said Papa in his deep voice when the girls reached the wagon. Look what the wind done blow my way. If you girls want to ride home, I'm going to be heading that way in a bit. I got a few stops to make first. I can't, said Sarah. I got to get right straight home and help my mama. All right, Addy said. I'll see you tomorrow. She was disappointed. Sarah often had to help her mother do the washing that she took in to earn money. Addy climbed onto the wagon as Sarah left. Papa slapped the reins on the horse's back, and the wagon moved away from the curb. I wish Sarah ain't have to help her mama so much, Addy said, sliding close to Papa. I wish she didn't either, Papa said, but her family need the money. He shook his head. I never did expect things to be easy and freedom, but I didn't think things would be so hard either. When me and Mama first got here, I didn't like Philadelphia at all, Addy said softly. Mama worked real hard, and I spent most of my time alone in our room. I was missing you, and Sam, and Esther, something awful. But Mama kept saying things was going to get better. It was going to take time for things to change. Oh, good, I'm glad you're enjoying the book. Sometimes it seemed like change is as slow as this tired old horse, Papa sighed. But at least in Philadelphia, things can change for the better. That's true, Addy said, spreading out her arms. Here in Philadelphia, I get to go to school, and I can read and write and do my figures. I used to dream about it, but now it's real. And look at us, Papa. We riding around the city on this big wagon. This is much better than warming tobacco plants. Papa smiled. There is some things better here. You going to school, me and your mama getting paid for our work. And we got a nice room at the boarding house. Even though Sam and Esther ain't with us yet, Addy said, you being here done made things much better for me and Mama. But I want them to be even better, Papa responded. I'm a good carpenter. I can build anything. Every carpenter job I try to get, they say they don't hire colored folks. Ain't that something, Addy? When we was in slavery, I was a carpenter. Now that I'm free, I find out these white people up north think a colored man ain't good enough or smart enough to drive a nail. That ain't fair, Addy said. Sure ain't, Papa said, but that's the way it is. Papa made 2 deliveries before he came to his last stop, a Natkin's confectionery shop. Addy could see a group of white girls about her age sitting at a table eating ice cream. She had walked by this shop once with Sarah. Back then, Addy had not even known what ice cream was. But at a church social a few weeks later, Addy had her first taste of it, and she loved it. Without thinking, Addie blurted out to Papa, "It sure would be good to have some ice cream now." As soon as the words had flown out of her mouth, Addie felt awful. She shouldn't ask Papa to spend money on fancy treats. And she also knew that this shop didn't serve black people. Papa glanced at the group of girls inside the shop. "I'm telling you, Addie, this is some kind of freedom," Papa said as he climbed down from the wagon. "I can deliver ice to make ice cream, but I can't buy my own daughter a dish of it." "That's all right," Addie said. "I don't like it anyway." Papa looked at her out of the corner of his eye. Addie could tell he didn't believe her. Addie watched Papa lift a huge block of ice with a pair of large tongs. He rested the ice on his shoulder, headed down the alley, and went in the side door of the confectionery shop. When Papa climbed back onto the wagon, he was carrying something. "Look here at what was in the trash," he said. "It's a busted up ice cream freezer. I bet I can fix it up. Then we'll make our own ice cream." Papa gave Addie a playful nudge. "Won't that be nice?" he asked. "It would be," Addie said. Papa tugged on the reins, and the wagon gave a slow lurch forward. Addie and Papa rode on in silence. She was thinking, colored people got a strange kind of freedom here in Philadelphia. There are jobs we can't get and shops we can't eat at just because of the color of our skin. It ain't fair. When Addie thought about it, she felt just as dizzy as she had when she was standing before the spinning loops of the double Dutch ropes. Being a black girl in Philadelphia was like being outside the loops of these ropes. Inside was a world Addie wanted to enter. But right now, she was standing on the outside, looking in. How would she be able to jump into that other world? So that's the ice cream maker. Almost looks like a milk churner, and that's how they used to make ice cream. So that's the end of the first chapter. If you want, I can go on and read the second chapter, if there's any interest in that. So anyway, thank you for all the likes. And if you aren't following me yet, be sure to give me a follow so you get updates on when I go live. Well, you know, I'll read the next chapter. It's pretty short. Sunshine, Chapter 2. When Addie came home from school the next day, a small wagon loaded with furniture was in front of the tall boarding house. People often moved in and out. Mr. and Mrs. Golden, who owned the boarding house, rented out 5 rooms. Mr. Golden came out the front door. "Good afternoon to you, Addie. How are you today?" "Good afternoon, Mr. Golden," Addie said. "I'm doing fine. Who's moving in?" Mr. Golden sat down on the front step and wiped his neck with a handkerchief. "By the looks of all this furniture, you'd think a family of 10 was moving in. But it's just one person. My mother." "Oh," Addie said, disappointed that there weren't any children moving in. Addie went up to her family's room on the 2nd floor. She flopped onto her bed and reached for her doll, Ida Bean, who had been lying on Addie's pillow. Addie loved to cuddle with Ida and tell her secrets. But even with Ida to keep her company, Addie still felt lonely. So that's Addie's doll, Ida Bean, right there. Addie still felt lonely during the long afternoons. She was the only child in the boarding house, and all the adults who lived here were at work. Mrs. Golden was busy making supper for everyone and didn't want to be disturbed. Mama and Papa didn't get home until late. Sometimes they didn't get home in time for the meal Mrs. Golden served. On those days, Addy still joined the other boarders for supper in the dining room. This evening was one of those times. So, when Mrs. Golden rang her bell, Addy went down to the dining room by herself. She took her place at one of the two tables. 4 other boarders sat at that table, talking about the trouble Black people were facing on the streetcars. "Did you see today's paper?" Mrs. Golden asked. "There was almost a riot on a streetcar downtown. 3 colored people were hurt." A man at the table said, "I heard a conductor threw a colored man off the Pine Street streetcar and broke his leg. If they just let us sit inside, there wouldn't be all this trouble." A young woman at the table added. "That'll be the day," said Mr. Golden sourly. "I'll be an old man before I see that change come." Their talk scared Addy. She picked at her dinner of oxtail stew and mashed carrots. After supper, Addy headed back to her room. She was halfway up the stairs when she heard a bird singing. Addy tiptoed back down the stairs. The bird's beautiful song was like a trail that Addy followed down the narrow hall. The trail stopped at the open door of a room at the end. The room was dark. The faint light from the hall was the only brightness in it. As Addy's eyes got used to the dimness, she saw a cage hanging before the window. In it was a small yellow bird, sitting on a perch, singing out happily. Addy stood at the door for a minute, enjoying the bird's song. Suddenly, a woman's voice said, "Come in, child." Addy was so startled that she jumped. She hadn't seen anyone in the darkened room. She moved a few steps inside. The woman lit a kerosene lamp, and Addy recognized the furniture she had seen on the wagon earlier in the day. The woman sat in a high-backed rocker next to the cage. "Good evening, ma'am," Addy said. "I'm Addy Walker. Me and my mama and papa live upstairs. You Mr. Golden's mama?" "That's right," the woman answered. "Come on in and meet my bird Sonny." As Addy went over to the bird cage, she saw the woman's eyes. The color parts of her eyes, the irises, were covered with a cloudy whiteness. Addy stood silently, staring at the woman. So that's Addy, and that's Mr. Golden's mom. That's the bird. "Didn't know I was blind, did you?" Mrs. Golden asked. Addy answered quickly. "No, ma'am. If you blind, how did you know I was standing outside your door?" "I've got plenty of ways of seeing," Mrs. Golden answered. "I heard your footsteps. They were soft and spaced close together, so I could tell you were a child." "How old are you, Addy?" Mrs. Golden asked. "When's your birthday?" "I'm 9, Addy said, "but I ain't really sure about when my birthday is. I was born in the spring." Addy felt ashamed that she didn't know her birthday. Her seatmate at school, Harriet, knew when her birthday was. "That's a shame you don't know your birthday," Mrs. Golden said. "Just listening to you talk, I think you were born into slavery." "Yes, ma'am," Addy said. "How'd you know?" "Well, most slaves don't know their birthday," Mrs. Golden replied. "I was born right here in Philadelphia, but my parents were born into slavery over 100 years ago. I'm an old woman, you know. I was there the day God invented dirt. Addy looked at Mrs. Golden in disbelief. Mrs. Golden laughed so light and high that it made the room seem brighter. Addy joined in with her laughter. "You're real funny, ma'am," Addy said. "My brother's sandwich like you. He liked riddle and jokes." "Your brother?" Mrs. Golden said. "You didn't mention him. Does he live here too?" "No, ma'am," Addy explained sadly. "We don't know where Sam is. He might still be a slave, but he wanted to be a soldier. He and my papa were sold off the plantation. Then my mama and me ran away up here. We had to leave my baby sister Esther on the plantation when we left, but someday we're gonna all be together again." "Slavery has taken a lot away from colored people," Mrs. Golden said. "If we want to get some of it back, we're going to have to take it. It's going to be some time before your family gets back together. But I know one thing you can take for yourself right now, Addy. You can choose a special day and claim it for your birthday." Addy had never thought about this before. "That's a good idea," she exclaimed. "But how will I know what day is right for my birthday?" "You'll just know," answered Mrs. Golden. "When that almost perfect day comes along, it'll be meant just for you." Now, the day God invented birds. Was extra special, close to perfect, and I was there for that too. Sorry, I don't allow co-hosts for this, but you're welcome to join. You're welcome to chat, like in the text chat, but I don't allow co-hosts for this. Anyway, Sonny seemed to understand what Mrs. Golden was saying. The bird sang happily, with his head cocked back and his breast puffed out. "Mrs. Golden, why your bird in that cage?" "It seemed like he would be sad and lonesome in there all by himself," Addy said. Mrs. Golden closed her eyes for a moment before she answered. "I can tell you're a smart girl. You think about things. I do think Sonny is lonely sometimes. I think I can hear it in his song. But we keep each other company. When I hear him singing out from his soul, it brings sunshine into my life." Addy thought about that. "But he's still locked up." "Oh, child," answered Mrs. Golden. "That cage can't contain Sonny's spirits. It soars right out from behind those bars. That's what's important for all of us, to let our souls sing out.